My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
And we're home.
It's the Great Australian Bake-Off. We are back. We don't have to call it a bake-off when they're calling it a baking show.
It's an actual shed.
We recognise the animals in the background of this one.
There are lots of dogs, more dog spotting this year. Oh, it's just wonderful.
There's no snow. There's no Saskatoon berries.
Evil things. It's just good old-fashioned Australian baking with well-known and loved judges and hosts and
a tent that looks like a shed. And that's the most important part, of course. We are not in the pavilion like we have been for Great Canadian Baking Show. And if you haven't listened to our Great Canadian Baking Show recaps, please go and find them. Please go find the Great Canadian Baking Show online. It's available if you use a VPN, and that's perfectly legal and legitimate. Mm-hmm. And go and watch that, and go and listen to our recaps, because those bakers are amazing, and that show is wonderful too.
Yes, but, we've given enough time to the Canadians. Let's get back to the Australians, because it has been, 3 long...
Well, it's 2 years, really.
Okay, it's technically 2 years, but it feels like...
Well, it's 2 years / 3 years, really.
But in actual effect, it's been 10 decades.
Yeah.
With everything that's gone on, there's been a pandemic, there's been lockdowns, we've lost Betty White.
What more can be going on? Bob Saget is no longer gracing our presence.
Yes.
First of all, thank you everybody for the kind words and the really positive feedback off the back of our interview with Mel and Claire.
Oh my God.
They were an absolute delight. And as we all saw tonight, obviously, they maintain their title of, and I apologise to Alan and Anne from Canadian here, but Mel and Claire are the best. They are literally the best at doing this.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore them. And tonight they were both in fine form. There was not a beat missed, a line gone unanswered, and boy, did they have a lot to work with.
Oh, there's a lot of material in this episode. There's going to be a lot of material in this series, I think. Mm-hmm. This is rich.
Rich.
There's a lot to come in this.
It's so rich. It's like Maggie has injected all the butter from the butter hoard.
And we've got some changes to discuss as well. Obviously, it's fairly well known.
Yeah.
New production, but what I will say is it didn't look like it. It just looked like a beautiful continuation.
Yeah.
Everything looked as normal. So thank you for not making this Kiwi, basically.
Exactly. There was still as much care, and there were obvious differences in the shed, but it looked beautiful, and we could see that they had to do it because of COVID. They had to have ventilation there, so everything was open, lots of space. The benches had a slight curve in them to give a bit more space in the middle, and it's purely from a practical perspective, because wherever we're seeing, whatever angle we're seeing the bakers from, there's at least a sound dude or lady.
There's a couple of cameras.
And
there's multiple
producers.
There's multiple cameras going around that shed at once. So that is an amazing job to be able to film this in these conditions. But let's get to it, shall we? So we start with a cake week, because you need to start with a cake week.
And a monumental, Mel and Claire got lost for 2 years. And they had to make their way back to the shed.
So was I the only person that picked up the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here reference, basically?
No.
The whole thing was about the fact...
The whole
thing was about the fact that Mel could not do direction to save herself. Which I absolutely loved. And Matt Moran walking past with a jacket over the shoulder. It looks like you've been in the bush. Beautiful reference. Absolutely wonderful.
Yes, while the sun is always in the north, ish.
and look, they were both magnificent, but one theme that's going to pop up a lot in this episode is that this could well be Claire Hooper's best episode as a host ever. Mm-hmm. Claire was amazing. Absolutely. The looks to camera, the knowing glances to camera, the nods, the winks.
Yeah.
She was on fire in this episode.
A lot of Claire Hooper eye work.
Oh, the eyes tell a story, and my word,
have it.
My word, did they? Now, it's far more important, just because they got there. You get the shot of the shed, and it's a big moment.
Yeah,
getting a shot of that shed is a big moment. We know where they're going. We know what it looks like. We know all of this, and yet when you see it, you still go, oh my God, it's the shed.
Oh, it's its own character, isn't it? It's like all good like novels and movies and stuff that where it's set becomes, you know, that additional character, like whether you're reading Ben Aronovich's Rivers of London series and like the whole of London. London is a character in a lot of books.
Yes.
But, you know, it's the shed, and I'm glad to see, you know, that fifth mainstay is back, you know.
Now, look,
I'm unaffected by the pandemic.
No, I'm not mentioning...
I don't know how the shed went in lockdown.
I'm not mentioning this to big note ourselves. I'm mentioning this because I think it bears witness. We've been to a couple of grand finals before. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that we've talked about them before.
Yeah.
But every time you see the shed,
yeah,
you still go, oh my God, it's the shed.
The shed.
And remember, if you listen to our podcast in the last series where we spoke to the executive producer, Nicole, for that series, and she was talking about when she told us it was a tent. Now, remember, I've lent on it. I've pushed myself up against it. I did not believe her when she said it's a tent.
It's solid.
It's very solid. And it doesn't look like one. On the camera, it looks like they've built a shed. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
My dad would be happy to have that in his backyard.
He'd be proud.
I mean, it would be dwarfed by his shed, which is like 3 times the size of his house.
But true. Seeing Mel and Claire was wonderful, and then seeing Matt, and you're like, oh my God, it's Matt! And then when Maggie comes out of the shed, it was just like, oh my God, it's Maggie. So now we
happy place.
So now we fanned over it.
Yes.
Let's get serious, because we're here, of course, to give a solid critique and a solid judgment.
It's all seriousness from here on.
All serious. All we ever do is be serious.
So what was the first bake today for our people?
Sponge cake.
And what was that stuff on top?
Well, it wasn't icing sugar, so they didn't do it. They didn't put any icing sugar
on top.
Well, a couple of people put some icing sugar, but not really, to be honest with you. Now, they could do any size, any shape, or any flavour, but it had to be decorated. That sort of came back in the judging a little bit.
Yeah.
And 2 hours to make the sponge. Now, I can't remember who it was exactly, but I think it was Nerman. It might have been Nerman who said, I'm worried about Matt being mean to me. Has he seen the show? There is no mean... If anything, Maggie Beer is probably going to be the harsh one of the two, but she's going to say it in such a warm and loving manner, you're going to think she's patting you on the head.
But there's no harshness.
No.
There's no harshness. There's no mean judge. There's no Paul Hollywood who, you know, in his own thing, it's less mean and more, you know, making you question your sense of reality.
Existence, yeah.
You might get a bit of a question about something if they don't like it, but even then, you know...
There's no mean.
There's no mean.
That's what I love. It's like, I'm worried about Matt being mean. No! Matt Moran is not mean. He's lovely.
It's like there's a stark difference between Matt Moran and Gordon Ramsay. It's why Matt Moran is not featured on his daughter's TikToks.
Exactly.
You know, and a pop culture icon, because...
He should be.
He should be, because niceness... You know, nice people shouldn't finish last. Not that Matt Moran's finishing last. Nice people
who have a lot of lamb to sell.
Yes, and beautiful restaurants around Australia.
Yeah, that's the more important point. Nice people that have a lot of lamb to sell really should.
And will truffle hunt the shit out of an area for their friends. Like, they will find the last white truffle in all of Sydney, as we heard Mel tell us.
Exactly, as she mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah.
Now, Nerman.
Yes.
Let's start with Nerman, because that's an introduction and a half to the contestants this year.
I fucking love when you get someone who just completely does not fit what their occupation is. Like, you look at him, you're thinking, okay, maybe he's like one of those funky maths teachers.
Runs a cafe.
An
artist.
Yeah. Maybe a boutique, bee crafty person.
GP was not what I expected.
No. I really feel that Nerman gets around on a penny farthing or like a steampunked out, like, you know, like motorcycle and sidecar.
I like the idea of being a penny farthing myself. I'm here, and he's got the old timey doctor's bag,
yes,
and everything's kept in tonic bottles.
And occasionally, when he needs to do long distance travel, he pulls out his balloon and tries to get around the world in 80 days
with his assistant, Professor McGonagall.
Yes.
But it's just. Again, he opens up his apothecary bag and produces little bottles with corks in them for whatever ails you.
Yes.
But I love Nerman.
Yes, he's brilliant. And look, good on him for being a GP and serving, Australia and people and stuff. Because I think he'd be a lovely GP to go to.
So he did a pandan sponge with palm sugar chantilly cream to go along with.
And
that.
he mentioned his background is Chinese and Indonesian.
Yep.
And he loves Australia, so he mixed it all together.
Now, at this point, we got the first vague introduction to Carmel and her bunnies, and look, I'm thinking that Carmel's bunnies might become a character all of their own. I mean,
They aren't already.
In Canadian Bakeoff, we had, of course, Nimbus.
Yes.
One of the contestants' dogs. And Nimbus became quite popular.
Yes.
But the bunnies, I can't remember the first one's name, but I remember the second one was Coco.
Oh.
Can't remember the first one's name.
We'll have to clock that.
So please, Carmel, if you can let me know which one I've missed out so I can issue a formal apology next week, I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, because,
Hey, listen.
They listen. They've got big ears. That's all they do. Bunnies these days are massive podcast listeners.
What else have you got to do if you're a bunny? Eat
grass.
Eat grass, reproduce, and listen to podcasts.
Yes.
To be fair, in COVID, that feels like that's a lot of people's lifestyle.
We're all bunnies.
Possibly eating grass. Anyway, now, next up is Hoda.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to sound weird every time I pronounce this.
Hoda, because you're going
I'm used to saying Huda.
Yep.
So it's spelled exactly the same way, but it's Hoda.
Yep. She's Persian.
Yep. So Iranian, yes. If I happen to slip up and say Huda, you know why.
I bloody love the elegance in her house. Like, you can just imagine going there. It's one of those houses that I would always feel like I am just too unclean for, but I would be like just in awe of it. And her family looks so lovely. Like, just...
It was funny. It very much actually reminded me, funnily enough,
of
Huda from MasterChef's house. When we went to record the podcast there, and we turned up, and it's white and resplendent, and it's nothing out of place, and you're like, I don't want to breathe in the wrong place. This is amazing. Yeah. But it's such a stunning sort of background. Yeah. Now, she gave us the first pressure point of the series, where she announced that she was using rose water.
Oof.
And... Everybody who's ever seen a Bake-Off.
That's coming in and just, that's flopping your penis around a bit. Sorry, Hoda. Here we are talking about how classy and lovely and everything.
and Kristie's whipping it out. Anyway, so rose water is always a contentious ingredient.
You've got to work it, you can only use a little bit of it, but you've got to use big dick energy to actually use it properly.
There we go. We made it work.
Yeah.
Pistachio and rose water, and they're topped with buttercream and pistachio crumb. So lots of pistachio, lots of rose water.
And I love the random as Maggie's walking away from the bench when she's speaking to Hoda, going, pistachio, and pointing at it.
She points and went, pistachio, and walked away.
I really feel like everyone's gone a little bit crazy with the lockdown and the COVID. Like, that's just how cute it
Ingredients
was.
you haven't been able to find. You're like, oh, pistachio.
Like, even Matt was saying things later on in a little cutesy voice.
It was very interesting. Now Hayden.
Yes.
Now Hayden, first of all, Hayden is too trendy for the E in his name.
Yes. And I'm looking at him going, I know him from somewhere. And they've gone, oh, he's a university professor. I'm like, former lecturer. And
Physiology lecturer in medicine faculty.
Maybe he taught me at uni. I'm going, no. I keep seeing him being my age, but I didn't do uni with him, but I did. I fucking did a musical with him at uni.
Are you kidding?
No, we were in Anything Goes together. He was one of the leads. I was understudy for the main. There was no way I was going to get the lead. There was like a leggy American who was like a professional singer that was...
Well, anything goes.
Exchanging, yeah.
Was their name Sutton Foster, perchance?
No. She did date one of the hot AFL players while she was there. But, I played the bursar.
So, okay, we've got a male lead and the bursar. Okay,
yes,
outstanding. I hope Hayden remembers you. Anyway.
Look, my terrible moustache work, I'd never make a good drag king. I think I'd like to, but I never would.
You know who you need to go to for tips?
Who?
Nerman.
Yes, Nerman. Help me out the next time I play a bursar or want to get into my drag king role.
The next time you're in a bursar role, which is all the time you go for bursar roles.
Yeah.
Look, again, lockdown apparently is eating grass, people reproducing, and bursar rolls.
Bursar rolls,
There's an abundance of bursar rolls. Anyway, so he was making a square blueberry sponge with a blueberry coulis cream. And I was a bit again, I was a bit worried. We've seen square bakes go wrong, but
Yeah. But
no.
he's a physiology lecturer. He's looking at the
Very
physiology of the
organised.
bake. Oh yeah, he had his
The
napkin.
notes, napkin with the notes, and this is where I am at the process and where I need to get to in the process. Very organised.
Yeah, did not see that in the musical. I don't remember. The leads had their own like.
Didn't have napkins?
We were just in the cattle room, you know.
I was going to say the leads weren't given napkins to write their instructions on.
No, I think that would
Scripts?
Scripts.
So
Probably actual paper.
I was going to say, did they actually give you real scripts or just napkins? Maybe it's a habit he picked up. Anyway, at this point, they cut to Tom for the first time. Now, the reason I brought this up is because this is, there are commercial considerations, always. And I loved it because it was so subtle. Tom going, I really want to talk about the quality of the stuff I'm using here. So much better than the equipment I've got at home, says he, touching the new Smeg mixer. While we look at so obviously everybody, Smeg must be on board as the sponsor for the mixers. And you know what? They look really good.
They're pretty, and the Smeg.
Oh, the Smeg stuff's always pretty.
Yeah, I know.
I don't use Smeg. So before anyone goes, oh my God, they're sponsored and trying to get a no, I've got a really kick-ass KitchenAid, and we'll talk about that
Yeah,
more.
but we're going to need a new fridge soon. And I'm looking at the Smeg fridges going, oh my God, that's gorgeous. The pink's cool, wouldn't match what we got. The baby blue, though.
I mean, if you want to,
Yeah.
then no problems. But no. In all seriousness, though, I always love the subtle plugs.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's like the subtle plugs for all the new different sponsored equipment. And again, it's good, by the way. We're not criticising it because that's how you make these shows.
Absolutely. Like, you got to, someone's got to fund them. And it's been since the inception of television that there are sponsors. And at least these days, we're not, telling children to puff on Marlboros. Like,
Not yet, but it's week one, Kristie.
And look, last week we were telling them they could drive forklifts. I'm presuming by next week it'll be tinnies and fags.
Wait till we get to week 4, tobacco week.
Oh yes,
Like, it's gonna be great.
The technicals make your own durry.
The showstopper is the showstopper is vaping up. Anyway, so
Tom, yes.
No, we'll get to Tom a bit more in a minute.
Okay.
But it's the plug for the.
Oh, the Smeg. But my other thing about loving Smeg is not only. If people actually know what Smeg is.
Don't Google.
Hayden would, because he's a physiology lecturer.
Don't Google. My mother listens to this. Mum, don't Google. Anyway.
Okay, so Smeg is the stuff that carries semen. Okay, so look, so they didn't have to Google and get in trouble at work for looking up Smeg, which is purely a biological term.
But
okay?
far more importantly, let's get to the far more important bit about Smeg.
Red dwarf.
Thank you.
We can say Smeg head now.
Exactly.
Maybe this season all us fans can be Smeg heads. But then I think that's what the Red Dwarf fans are, and that might get confusing.
Yeah, that'll get very confusing with their Twitter hashtags. Anyway, Ella. Now,
we just talk about Tom.
No, because we was only talking about the equipment. We're going to talk about Tom a bit later on.
Okay, no worries.
We need to talk about Ella.
Okay, yes.
Because Ella, before we got to the showstopper, Ella was firming as a favourite very early on, just because the personality in her sort of explanations on things is quite fun. The thing that she talked about a lot when she was doing her Princess Passion Fruit sponge, topped with a sugar tiara, was that she forgets sugar a lot in her bakes. Now, first of all, I like the idea of doing the sugar tiara because you can't forget the sugar if the entire top is sugar.
Yeah.
So that's a bit genius. But also she's aware enough about it because we've seen it happen in Bakeoff.
Oh yeah, that people forget sugar quite a lot.
Sugar, butter, when we get to the technical, cream. People forget key ingredients all the time.
It happens,
Sugar is, remember.
It's very aerated in there, and I presume, like, with the climate change and shit, Jude's whimsy is just being blown across the oceans into
the Canadian pavilion into the Australian shed.
Yes.
But think about the first couple of series of British. The first series of British Bake Off begins with a guy using salt instead of sugar. Like, that's the starting point.
Which, when we get to Lidia, is one thing I'm worried about for her.
Oh, yeah. So, then we get to Blessing. I love Blessing. She's really cool.
She's a disability support worker. Represent.
Yeah. So, she was doing a berry sponge with a cream, cheese, and berry reduction.
Nice.
Looked really cool, too.
Yeah, and look, I think she made a smart choice there. Something that was going to look good, but also taste good. and be able to be executed in that time.
There's a very fine balance. There's a very fine balance in Cake Week. And as, again, Lidia found out to her own detriment, is that the fine balance is you want something that's straightforward to do that you're not going to screw up, has to taste good, and has to be just showy enough.
Yeah.
You don't need to stand out in the first week.
No.
But you do need to do something that gets them to go, they've got something there.
Yeah, and just respect the time. And look, you know, we'll get to Lidia shortly because she's wonderful and I do adore her. But, you know, you're given a certain set of time and you want to do
Use
that.
it.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron went bold early on. Aaron told everyone he was quirky. Now,
No.
I mean...
Look, I get it, Aaron. I have checked you. I can see those alchemical elemental symbols tattooed on your arms. I see that. I get where you're coming from, but you can't call yourself quirky. You've just got to be quirky.
If you tell everyone that you're quirky, first of all, you're setting yourself up that you have to be. And then you're putting yourself possibly into a bit of a corner that you may not be able to get out of later on down the series.
Yeah. And
because, like, if you do quirky things from time to time, but don't set up that you have to do quirky things, then you're far more likely to be able to maneuver in a bake. Whereas if you tell everyone you're quirky, they're going to start looking for it. And if you don't do it, they're possibly going to go, oh, well, you know, this isn't really your style.
Yeah, now, I don't know if he's trying to out quirky Nerman. I don't know if there's a quirky off.
I don't think you can out quirky Nerman, can you? Did Aaron turn up on a penny farthing? I don't think so.
No, but next week he will. He's going to be his Nerman's apprentice.
I mean, he's a teacher. Teachers represent. And I saw him about it. Did everyone find the work where I left it online the other day? I mean, I'm used to asking that question and the answer being no. What work online? I don't check Google Classroom. Anyway, I really hope they do check your Google Classroom, Ellen.
Yeah.
Aaron?
Sorry, that was Google
Responding.
talking to us because we just said that.
We said it, so...
but I just also want to say, I think Aaron's cool and I think his baking's great. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, he plays rugby. I don't know if you picked that up.
Oh, I don't know.
But Aaron did mention he plays rugby, which is a bit out of the blue. He doesn't look like a rugby player, but apparently he plays rugby.
So he made a pavlova lamington sponge with a yogurt and balsamic strawberries in the middle of them. That was his middle of the cream.
I like how he's going. I've got to make this triple Australian. Can't just be a sponge cake with icing sugar on top. It's going to be a Lamington. What's more Australian than a Lamington? Pavlova. Why? Because he stole it from New Zealand.
He stole it from New Zealand. That makes it more Australian, damn it. Now, again, for people looking around to see if there's any differences, there's still lots of dogs. Lots of dogs. I like the fact, almost as if they wanted to make sure that we knew that the dogs weren't going anywhere. The first sign was a dog walker with like 7 of them.
I do like the producers have gone, okay, we have to make the audience feel calm and reassured. How can we do that? Make sure the fucking dogs are there, all right?
And again, as Mel and Claire talked about on the podcast the other day, they frequently like, we've got to stop production for a minute. Dog over there. Yes. And we also got lots of flora and fauna and some good close-ups of bees. There were lots of good bee close-ups in this episode.
There's some bee spotting. Oh. Do you reckon that was on the bee roll?
Oh. Leave that quality of pun to Aaron, please.
Do you think they got like an intern in who's like, it's their first time doing the camera work. They're going, okay, we want you to go out and get some bee roll. And they're like, bees? They want me to, just bees? Okay, I'll get the bee roll, no problem, and they've just gone intrepidly out there filming bees and like, no, we meant all of nature, but
Now this is where we got the first of the many Claire moves. So we get the time call on the first time, when we get that time call and she's out doing the look off and it's going to be this, and then they finish the time call and Claire just gives a knowing look to camera and a bit of a wink and a bit of a nod and walks past the camera and you're like, come with us on this journey. We're like, oh, we're there, Claire.
Yes.
She was on fire. Now we get to Lidia. Now there were many revelations I have expected in the history of Bakeoff. There are many things you expect to hear out of a baker's mouth. You expect to hear that there's a nonna, and by my word, everyone you looked into Lidia and you went, nonna. That's a nonna. I know for a fact she's a nonna.
Yep.
And there were so many other things you're expecting to hear. The first thing I didn't expect to hear was, I have no sense of smell or taste.
And part of me's going, holy shit, surely they did COVID tests before they walked in. And then as she's explaining...
No, the grandkids have to taste it all.
And as they're explaining, I'm going, holy shit, how's she going to know she has COVID?
And my first thought, so your first thought was how's she going to know she got COVID? I'm like, she's making strawberries and masala. How is this going to work? How is she going to know they're done?
Oh, look, I guess it's when she starts feeling slightly tipsy as she smells it.
Because they walked over and they went, oh, it smells really strong over here. And she's like, does it? I don't know.
That's true. She can't smell. I'm thinking about the taste. She also can't smell shit brick.
It's all going from memory. Now,
look, I'm bloody worried, right? Because, like, how many times is her grandkids, because you'd love her, you know, she's your nonna, you don't want to upset
and
her.
She's so cool.
And she's so lovely and so cute. And she brings over a cupcake and the kids are eating it and they're like, oh, she's used salt again. Do we tell her?
No, that's great. Look,
I'm just going to go to the loo. Have you got a tissue?
She is the super nonna. And I mean,
Yeah.
I love the fact that she's like, I remember it all. I mean, now I'm assuming she had it and lost it. Because if she never had it and never lost it, what is she remembering?
Then that kind of reminds me of when Bender started cooking in Futurama.
But, like, the thing was, and what they said with the judging on the first bake, they were like, your flavours are brilliant. It's like, she can't taste it. And I'm genuinely, I'm impressed and confused all at once.
Yeah, and look, you know, I thought it was quite lovely that straight up we've seen someone go, okay, I'm done, I'm finished, and she's going over to help people. But this kind of reminded me of me at school, when I would be finished with my work because, you know, I'd phone it in.
Yeah, I did the same thing. My maths work, I did the same thing.
Yeah, and maybe I didn't use all my time, you know, and then I'd just run around and do other shit.
I lost tons of marks in maths. Oh. And the reason I lost tons of marks in maths was I get the right answer and they go, where's your working? And I'm like, but I got the right answer. I know what it is. Yeah, but show it. I'm like, why? That's a lot of extra writing for no reason. The answer's this. But show your work. I don't need to show my work. I'm right.
Yeah, but look, I commend you for at least having the right answer. I could show my working and confuse the fuck out of my teachers. But so it just came to a point where my maths, it was a CBF, you know, just CBFing maths all over the place. But this is what reminded me of Lidia, and that got me a bit worried because she's like, I'm doing my mum's recipe. It's something I've cooked before. I'm like, okay, is it going to be strong enough and is it going to be sophisticated enough?
That was always going to be a bit concerning.
Yeah.
Now, Tom's was filled with strawberry syrup and he covered it in Italian meringue. Mm-hmm. And he had the sponge. Now, poor Tom.
Oh, Tom.
It collapsed is not the word.
No, it's like a portal from another dimension opened up.
Inside the sponge.
Yes, and just broke down the atomic structure of the ingredients.
And was like drawing both the top and the bottom of the sponge back into itself. It was like this. It was like a black hole had emerged in the middle, and then stopped.
Look, they say Tom's a CEO. I think he's an actual superhero, and he thought he had some time off, and the rest of his superhero crew would be looking after it. And unfortunately, some evil villain
collapsed in the universe inside his sponge.
Yeah.
I loved the bold plan of covering it in Italian meringue because it was going to cover, and we'll come to the judging in a minute.
And that's why he's the CEO.
Yeah.
Because he's like, bitches, I know how to make this look good.
Now, Jaywen, who did the sticky rice sponge. Now, I loved the concept.
Yeah.
Of using the black sticky rice.
Oh, that stuff is just delicious. Oh, you know what? I so miss Yumcha. I couldn't even remember what it was called. It's been that bloody long. And sticky rice, like black sticky rice pudding is just, like when you can't get mango pancakes, that is a go-to. Now,
they were covered in mango and frangipani as well.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that's...
And not frangipani, people. Frangipani. There were flowers.
Yeah. And that's what Matt said. He got very excited. He was going, frangipani. Like, that's what he's... Like, the way... I can't say it exactly.
It's things they've been held back from. Yeah. Now, Ashley... I like Ashley a lot. She's
I
cool.
loved her tats. I wanted a more close up of her tats.
Yeah.
Like, I love her too, but I'm a tat.
You are.
I'm a tat person because I'm there going, ooh, is that the same tattoo artist as me? Because I could notice some of the things, but I didn't get a good look.
So she made a tropical coconut sponge with a passion fruit crema. And she was doing mini coconuts for the top bit as well.
Yes, she put the coconut in the sponge and she drank it all. No, it's just
No,
not
she
working
didn't.
out. No.
No, exactly. Now, I would have talked a little bit more about Ashley's, but we cut to Nav, whose opening line was, my nuts are very warm at the moment. And like, no context.
No.
Just cut to Nav, who looks straight down the barrel of the camera and just goes, my nuts are very warm at the moment.
Now, I detect a bit of a British accent there. So I feel like, he's like, okay, I know what we need. We need some saucy double entendre to inject into this tent. What's the easiest? I'm toasting nuts. Let's talk about how warm my nuts are.
Oh, completely. Now we had a spiced pumpkin sponge, cloves and cinnamon, and topped with a cream cheese frosting.
Yep, and that brought all the white girls to the yard.
It really did.
It was very...
Starbucks issued a cease and desist, but... Now...
It was when he went to do a design of Melusine on the top.
Now
then had like the Christians like getting angry.
Now at this point...
It's a vagina.
Now,
the two tails represent a vagina.
Now at this point...
Yeah.
We got Lidia thinking that she was done and circulating the shed to offer to help everybody, who, by the way, 3/4 of them turned around and went, no, I'm like halfway through. Not yet. Yeah. Now, can I just point out, they did this so early. We hadn't even been introduced to what Carmel's cake was.
Yeah.
So Lidia was finished before they even got around to telling us what Carmel's cake was.
Now, usually in Bakeoff, what we see is in that last 5 to 10 minute, when they're telling the story.
Who needs help?
And they're talking about, not talking about, but they're showing the timeline of how the bakes go. It's usually in that last 5 to 10 minutes that someone's just finished up and they might have that extra little bit of time to go and offer and then help someone frantically, I don't know, throw bacon at it or something.
Yeah. Lidia had time to walk around and solicit.
There's Blessing, and bless her, I bloody love Blessing, chopping up butter, like she's still constructing
the cake
and the icing. And Lydia's like, I'm here to help. And
she looks up and she's like, what?
Fuck. Didn't know you got a sous chef?
I wasn't aware this was a team challenge. Okay.
All right.
Sweet.
Yep.
So we then finally get to Carmel, and it's not going to surprise you, but there's a bunny theme. So
now she's dyed her hair apparently this week to look like carrots. That looks like henna.
So the bunny wouldn't set. The chocolate bunny was in the fridge still. Now it was a bunny drizzle sponge. Now I cannot tell you a single thing about the cake except for the fact that she put a bunny on top of it.
And she said bunny a lot. And she has 2 bunnies.
The word bunny was there, and one of them was called Coco. I can't remember the other one. Again, please, Carmel, correct me. But I can't tell you anything about this. In fact, I was so sure when I was thinking about it, this is the carrot cake, until I went, no, this is a sponge. Yeah. The carrot cake's the showstopper, which again is a bunny theme.
Look, I got a bit worried when she said bunny drizzle, because I don't know if I told you the anecdote and what that brought to mind. So it's not quite a drizzle, but when my mum was young, she was getting picked on at school apparently. So her and her sisters decided to take some revenge on these bitches. And they might have popped out to their backyard because they lived in the country, picked up some rabbit poop.
Oh no.
Covered it in icing sugar and took it to school to share as little treats. So I'm just seeing bunny drizzle as a potential play on that. Maybe some long syruped up rabbit poop.
I mean, the series is young, and we don't know. look, I'm sure there's going to be a week with biscuits. Yep. There's going to be, again, there's so many
desiccated rabbit poo Lamingtons.
Yes, the desiccated rabbit poo Lamington. Mm-hmm. We then cut to Nerman, who's going, I've got this, as he totally didn't have it.
Yep, just slathering on the buttercream.
He's like, slap, and it's not looking great. He's like, this doesn't look great. He's like, I got this. I got. No, you don't, Nerman.
I'm sure he's used to things going wrong as he's up in his steam powered Zeppelin, zipping across the sky, trying to catch lightning, for some wacky experiment. Something goes wrong. And
as part of his phantasmical adventures.
And he's like grabbing onto ropes, trying to string the whole thing back together. He knows what it's like to be impressive. He's got to be positive.
I really hope that his hot air balloon is pinstriped. It better be.
How can it not be?
It better be. So
in some flashy colours, red and yellow. I'm imagining.
So Hoda.
Yes.
So Matt said that it looked absolutely stunning. They said it had good crunch. The layers looked stunning. Mm-hmm. Maggie pointed out the rose water balance was right.
Yeah.
It was bang on. They did say that it wasn't
BDE there, Hoda.
They did say that it wasn't light like a normal sponge was because, again, when you're using rose water and pistachio, that's not going to be light, but it was excellent.
Yeah.
They said that Lydia's piping was precise and it was nice and light to the cut. The flavour was good and the balance was great, but as Matt pointed out, it's a white iced cake with a little bit of piping around the outside, and you need to do
on it. Yeah, more. A little bit more.
Yeah. Hayden, they said that it cut really well. Mm-hmm. Maggie loves the blueberry, but she said that the vanilla was incredibly strong. And Matt said the same thing, that the vanilla cut through really powerfully. And the texture of the sponge, however, was exceptional. So that probably saved him a little bit.
Yeah.
With caramel, they didn't even... I was hoping they were going to give us a little bit more for caramel because I was desperate. And the answer was, the sponge is good but dense. And then they moved on. And I'm like...
More! We need more!
Besides, we got 2 cutaways of this chocolate bunny.
Yes.
And not a single mention! I don't know if the chocolate was good. Was it tempered? How did it taste? What was the crack like on it? I don't know. What was the chocolate bunny like? We'll never find out. This is going to haunt me.
We're going to get caramel onto the podcast at some point.
I need to find out how the chocolate bunny went because it's going to haunt me.
Come on.
So, Aaron, they said it screams Lamington, which is good because it looked like one.
Yeah.
Very light. They said that the bitterness of the chocolate took away from the sweetness of the inside of the cake.
Yeah.
With Ashley, they said the sponge was nice and fluffy. They also said that it wasn't too sweet. Now, with Tom, they cut into it and they go, oh, it looks on the top. They cut it open and Matt goes, oh, there's a lot of meringue there. And Mel goes, oh, you seem to have come to the really good idea about how to hide this, Tom. Unfortunately, they've cut it open.
This is me. Both her and Claire, fucking on point. Love it.
The cross-section was just a large slab of meringue.
Which, if you're a fan of meringue...
Sweet.
Great. If it was a meringue challenge, he's in.
They were like, look, not your best work. And Tom just looked at them like, my best work.
However, it is both his best and his worst work.
At this point in time.
It's
his only work. Nerman, the cream looks curdled. Then they tasted it and went, yeah, no, that cream's curdled. The sponge wasn't aerated, but somehow was still light and moist. The flavour was good of the cake itself, but they said that the curdled cream then is all you can taste over the top of it.
Bugger.
Now, Nav, they said it was very dense and there were no air bubbles in it. They said the flavour was amazing. And Maggie's comment was, this is a great cake. Mm-hmm. It's not a great sponge.
Yeah, because what I noticed when he was going to put it in is that he put the stick through to, pop the big air bubbles, but then he knocked it down a couple of things. I'm like, ooh, surely that's not a good move.
Yeah, there was a few times where that happened, where people were like banging air out of it. I'm like, no, leave the air in it. It's a sponge. Now,
sponge cake.
With Blessing, they said the flavour was really good. Mm-hmm. The sponge was too warm for the buttercream, however, when she put it on.
Bugger.
That was a bit of a theme too, as we saw in the technical. The cake was a little bit
why?
Too warm.
She was too close to Nav and his nuts.
Now, Jaywen, they love the flowers.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the flowers. The sponge was good, but it was very, very sweet.
Yes.
But they did say that the rice added a new definition of flavour that they absolutely loved.
Nice.
Now, Ella, they pointed out that the sponge had a lot of height and it was very light. The flavour was awesome and pillowy. It was so awesome and so pillowy that we got a staple of Bakeoff. We got the little Maggie conducting arm wobble.
She was so happy, and I swear blind Maggie was at some point going to pick that tiara up and just pop it on her head.
Yeah, I have no doubts.
Like, just excitable.
So
she's got the sugar in her.
We then head to the technical.
Because she remembered the sugar.
Indeed, she remembered the sugar. The technical, which was a Japanese cotton cheesecake. Now we've all seen these. I actually love it. I love a Japanese cotton cheesecake. Haven't had one in a very long time because I refused point blank to make one, and I can't buy one nearby. So that's a bit of a disappointment. But once COVID breaks, so 5 years time. Anyway, they then go over and go. Now we all know that Maggie, we want something a bit saucy and a bit minxy. Come on, go off in your verbal. And she's like, it's all about the fold. Don't crack up and jiggle it. Just a little bit.
Whoa! Bringing back those 90s lyrics there.
I hope there was somebody in production just in the headsets going, jiggle it just a little bit. I want to see you jiggle it just a little bit. I presume that's what
Blessing was... No, Blessing's 19. She wouldn't know wiggle it.
No, not a hope. There are some people, I think, around that set who might have. So, now I do love at this point where they do their little now they've gone off to, and it was a really good one from Mel to start with, which was off to the skate park to make some TikToks and drink some UDLs. By the way, go to Mel's TikTok.
I'm just imagining Maggie grabbing out the flannel.
I really do hope just in time. I really do hope, because obviously we record immediately following the episode, so we haven't checked TikTok yet. But I'm hopeful in the next day or so we get to see some Mel TikToks at a skate park with a UDL. As is our want. Anyway, so the pressure point of this is really the folding of the egg.
Yeah.
So obviously it's got to be light, and as they said, if you overwork it, you'll have a problem in terms of it'll fall. But if you sort of underdo it and leave it all out, it doesn't combine properly, and it can sort of overbake.
Look, I thought it was a beautiful choice for a technical. It's really easy to see if it's consistent. But it's so intricate in putting it together. Now, these plums, these salty...
The umeboshi.
Salty plums, yes.
Now, I'm sure... I can't remember 100%, but I'm sure we've seen umeboshi in Canadian, but I can't remember for the life of me.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was either Canadian or it might have even been the rare Japanese thing on Japanese Week of British Bakeoff.
That was actually Japanese.
Yeah, actually it might have been. I think it might have been.
Okay.
But umeboshi plums, I've seen them before anyway. They are very, very clearly salty.
Wow.
So, and what you saw was Mel grabbed a bit of it and had the corner, and I haven't seen a facial expression like that in a very long time.
No.
It was real. She looked and goes, "No, but I think some of your plums might be a bit too salty." So, but then did the profile on Ella. Now, the only reason I stopped to notice this is that Ella has my KitchenAid. There was a boysenberry KitchenAid behind Ella, and solidarity forever, Ella.
You got a KitchenAid twin.
Yep, boysenberry. If you've got a boysenberry KitchenAid, let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter.
God.
Are you complaining about it?
No.
You love our boysenberry.
I don't have to make a gang out of it, though.
No,
like
you've
the
been too busy.
boysenberry
You've been too busy.
KitchenAid gang.
You've been too busy trying to coddle up to the people at Smeg.
Look, like I said, we're going to need a new fridge soon. And they're pretty.
KitchenAid make fridges. Anyway, they don't, but they need to. Now we
Could
then...
you imagine a KitchenAid fridge? How many fucking attachments they'd sell
and how
to
much
go
they
with
cost?
it?
The door for the fridge cost an extra $4,500. A freezer shelf cost $2,500. The power cord to go on the back of it's $8,000. But it's amazing.
You should see the egg dispenser.
Well, you could, but you can't afford it. At this point, we cut.
Unless you go to Costco and get like the.
At this point, we cut to Mel and Lidia discussing suits. So I'm here for the idea of Lidia sort of doing a segment on TV with Mel every week discussing fashion, because Lidia comes up to Mel comes up to Lidia and she's talking about cooking and talking about food, and they're talking about that, and she goes, you don't need somebody coming up in a fancy suit talking to you while you're trying to bake. And she goes, can I just stop? I love your suit. Your suit's, thank you very much. You just see, Mel's just sort of starting to fawn and, smile and get really... And she's like, I love that suit. It's so good. It looks amazing. You look wonderful in it.
I think Mel should just use Lidia as her kind of perk-up person.
Hype woman.
Hype woman, Lidia, the hype woman, the hype nonna.
Maybe they could keep Lidia around.
Hashtag hype nonna.
Just as the hype nonna.
Yeah, you're looking good today. Look, I love you.
If there's one thing that Lidia was really good at inside there, she was everyone's hype nonna.
Oh, fuck yeah. She get in there, put balls on a bra and hype you up.
So
that will make sense soon.
It will. So we got to the folding part of the cake, and everyone was folding. Now, Jaywen asked, why this cake for an Aussie icon? I mean, I'd like to ask Maggie why she picked this Japanese cake. Jaywen.
Maggie has a long and tawdry love affair with Japan. You know, she's a bit of a Japanese-ophile. I'm sure there's a word for
Sinophile.
it. Sinophile.
That's Chinese, actually.
That is China. Jesus Christ.
Well done.
It must be Japanophile.
No, I should know this anyway. Move on.
Yes, Mr. Society and Culture teacher.
Who teaches Japan, anyway.
Yeah. But now I'm thinking, like, Maggie must have a whole bloody, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. I reckon a tower of anime in the Stately Beer.
Stately Beer. Well, I mean, there's an enemy. It's Japanophilia, by the way.
Okay.
Or Japanophile, yes. Yeah. So, Stately Beer Manor. One of the things now for those who are new, for those who are new, when there are some people,
let's give you a tour.
We'll give you the tour now.
Now you've all heard of Pheasant Farm. Yep. You know, we know that, but do you know Stately Beer Manor? Stately
Beer Manor is, of course, Maggie Beer's luxurious home.
Yes.
It's surrounded by the verjuice fields, obviously.
Yes, with the lovely, beautiful curves of the Verjuice River running through it.
Yep, the beautiful curves, and you go up into it, and there's obviously large, Stately Beer Manor is there.
Yes, but underneath the manor is where the real secret lies, and that is Maggie Beer's butter hoard.
Yes, she has
like
her own
dragon,
own private butter hoard. Now, I did notice the other day, I was looking at some aerial photos.
Yeah.
Because we like keeping track, obviously, because you never know when the beer might go rogue. And I was looking it up. There was a change.
What?
Did you see the Lurpak signs?
Ooh, yes, that was different.
Hashtag you ought to be congratulated. Anyway, so
no more Devondale.
But the butter hoard has changed. It's Lurpak now, but the butter hoard is bigger than ever.
Yes.
Yeah, so Maggie Beer's butter hoard, which is just under Stately Beer Manor, it's huge. If the world ever needs it, she's there. She's ready to go. Now,
so imagine this beautiful manor. Now there is also a den of iniquity nearby.
Yep.
That, we won't go into that because that's, where a few of her friends live. She also has a big heliport for the Maggie Copter.
The Maggie Copter. And of course, the Maggie Copter is her primary form of transport.
Which I think is great because then when Nerman goes to visit her, he's got somewhere to land his balloon.
There's also going to be some penny farthing parking. And so he needs a balloon, a balloon deck and a penny farthing.
Yes. Now, I can imagine that, Maggie would have all kinds of accommodations for all kinds of transport.
I'm sure she's got penny farthing bike racks.
Zeppelins.
Hey, look, if anybody on the planet would have penny farthing bike racks,
Maggie Beer.
100%, she'd be ready for that. But
okay, so she's a Japanophile, and we've seen this her talk about it. Like, I'm sure there's Maggie Beer's Japan.
She's done a series.
Yep. She's done a series. She's spoken about stuff on MasterChef.
Talked a lot about her love of Japanese food.
Yep. And she, I presume COVID, notwithstanding, she goes there quite often.
And far more importantly, as we said, she is a huge manga fan.
Oh yeah, she's like, it's Robotech. Like, she is just
she's
bandit for Robotech.
She's all over original Pokemon, Neo Evangelion.
Yeah,
it's just Maggie loves it. She can't get enough of it. She's really into, the food one as well. There is that Japanese food anime.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
she absolutely loves that one. She's a big fan.
I think she's consulted on it.
I'm sure she's a food consultant.
Yeah.
I mean, my Japanese is patchy. I only did up to year 9, so it's patchy. But I know enough to know that I'm sure I've seen Maggie Beer.
Oh, yeah.
Although she might be going by Margaret Ackerman. I don't know. I'll have to find that out. Anyway, everybody taps their thing twice because you've got to tap the cake twice. Except for Nerman.
2.
Who went 8 times. He just kept bang, 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 bang.
Look, Nerman, it worries me that you're a GP. And
administer twice daily.
Yeah.
15 times.
Morning and not day and midday and 2 p.m. and 1 a.m. and several more in between.
Goes to administer a single COVID shot. You're like, why is that vial into another room?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the right dosage. So Ashley also added foil to the top of it because she's like, whenever I do a cheesecake, I'd add the foil to the top to stop it from. Now, interesting tactic, not necessarily one you'd use for this because it does rise slightly differently because of the way it's constructed. So
Yeah.
it was an
But
interesting.
if you noticed Ashley's when it came out, it was perfectly level. So maybe it
So she did make a cuppa, which is what the others didn't do, which
Yeah.
is far more important. Ashley's there with a cup of tea.
Good on you,
She's
Ashley.
worked it out.
She knows. She's come prepared. She's an ex-Navy person.
The others
so
are like,
she's
what
tactical.
The others are like, what do we do? What do we do? We sit around reading the recipe. We go around talking to each other, and Ashley's just there with a cup of tea, going, "You make cuppa."
Like Ashley knows. You know, she's been out to sea. She knows that in those long stretches between ports and between the times that you're singing in the Navy or turning
Mandatory.
back time we share, you're making a cup of tea. I mean,
I
there's a
like-
lot to do in the Navy.
I love the idea of daily turning back times with Cher.
If they can't get share, they get a drag queen.
Oh, look, they fly in every day.
Yeah.
So we then get another Claire moment. So Claire's there talking to Blessing, and Blessing's like, so, I mean, I might have left out an ingredient of a small one. And Claire's like, what? What do you mean? It's technical. What do you mean you left out an ingredient? I might have forgot the cream, and I'm hoping it's not a really big deal. And Claire just looks to camera like, we all know that's a big deal. And again, it's that knowing look that you can only have from somebody that's done this and done this many times, who looks at the audience and goes, I know. We all know how this works, right?
Yes.
Like, they're in on the joke. Now, Hodder struggled to get hers out of the tin. I was worried it was going to collapse at one point, where she's like, oh, no, it looked like it was going to fall apart.
Yeah, because it started to expand as it came out. And I'm like, oh no, Hoda, no.
Yeah,
no.
Hoda's was far more like, it looked like it's more like expansion foam.
No. Yeah. Bit of the Sellies, what's it called?
Yeah, no more gaps. Then we finished, of course, and there was nothing else. We finished the cheesecakes there. They turned them over, and we just served perfectly naked cheesecakes. And there was nothing at all put on top of the cheesecake in dusting form.
There was icing sugar.
It was the demon powder.
There was matcha.
Matcha. We get to episode 1. I get through the first challenge.
Yep.
I'm like, no one's used matcha. This is good. I like this. We get through the technical. I'm like, what do you mean matcha powder?
Yeah, but what I loved watching is Maggie knowing that if the cake's still hot, the matcha goes greener. Like, ooh, that's kind of some like high level
Some of the cakes did look like they were
sneaks.
mouldy. Because
with the matcha on top.
as it cooled with the matcha, it went like mossy.
Look, from what I understand, green is not a colour that you should put on cakes.
No.
I mean, we've got the Princess Fiona boobs in the princess cakes, but it is not a colour that is appetising when you see it on a cake, unless, it's for, say, you're doing a Princess Fiona cake. So when you put it in on powder form, and you used to like seeing breaded goods, and if they've got green stuff on them, you're like, can't eat that, it's mouldy. You're absolutely right there, my love.
Exactly.
Is this a cheesecake or is it penicillin?
I mean, look, it might be both.
Look, it is the times of COVID. We're desperate.
We
We'll
are
try
desperate
anything.
for whatever we can find. So the judging. Now, Tom, they said it wasn't the right height, but it was very even. It was very firm to the cut, but it was a bit more custard than cake. Now, caramels was nicely cooked, but it had cracked. The texture was quite good. There was matcha had put on it, however, while it was warm. This became a theme. Now, Hoda's was not badly lopsided. Now, the very fact that they said not badly lopsided worried me. 'Cause in other words, it's lopsided.
Yeah.
Not too bad. It cuts softly.
But it tasted good.
It was moist and airy, and it had a really good sort of balance in terms of the levels. Jaywen, the egg whites were not added at the right stage, and then they were overbeaten. Aaron's looked perfect, and the taste was good. Ashley, they said the matcha was on when it was hot. It was light, but it didn't get a rise to it. Nerman's had lots of volume. It was very fluffy, and the salt level was quite good. Blessings had a lot of cracks, and Maggie goes, this isn't as creamy as I'd expect. Hayden, the matcha sits well. It was very moist, but not cloud-like. Navs, they said it was very clearly done in a hurry. The salt balance was good, and they said it's more moist than you think. That's damning with faint praise, if ever I've heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Ella, the perfect top, moist but a little bit overcooked. And Lydia's was a nice height and colour. The paper was left on the bottom, however.
Ugh.
It was moist and airy. So,
Yeah.
in this one, Jaywen was 12th. Blessing was 11th. Hayden was 10th. Tom was 9th. Then we had... Who was 8th? Oh, Nav was 8th. That's right. Sorry about this. It's a long list. It's the first week. Ella was 7th. Ashley was 6th. Carmel was 5th. Then we had... Lidia was 4th, even with the paper on the bottom. Hoda was 3rd. Second was Nerman. But Aaron's, which was perfect, was first. And that was absolutely perfect.
Yep.
Now, we did the little bit in between where we do the who's in trouble bit. I was surprised they left Tom out.
Yeah, because he
came 9th in the technical.
And his sponge was not good.
His sponge collapsed completely. He was 9th in the technical with a cake that was more custard-like.
I would have put him as the one most in trouble.
But they didn't mention him at all.
No.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just something to remember.
Yeah.
The showstopper. Create your own miniature world. This could have gone so many places.
I know. What kind of miniature world would you have?
I mean, I would have recreated Lisa's Petri dish from The Simpsons.
Just like a little cult.
Yeah, I want a cult.
With a little mini statue of you.
Completely. I do have a bone to pick with everybody.
Okay, here we go. First episode in.
Matt Moran said in the judging, if you're going to put it on the cake, it should be edible, correct?
Yeah.
So why the hell did everybody have plastic figurines?
Well, why not?
Make fondant figurines.
No, I want a Lego man on my cake. You know, one of my best cakes my mum ever made me. And I always talk about the witch's cake, but I haven't spoken about my Smurf cake. And it was a cake, and she put some plastic Smurfs on it. You know what the bonus to that is? Got the Smurfs to play with afterwards. So there you fucking go.
Here's the problem.
What?
Matt Moran said if you're going to put it on the cake, it should be edible.
Yeah, but you can tell the difference. Like, here we spoke about that in relation to Nav's jelly, which apparently wasn't edible.
I mean, I do agree.
And I
do agree.
That is a faux pas.
I do agree. Nav's jelly should have been edible. I'm not going to disagree with that. But it's a bit rich saying if it's on the cake, it should be edible when we've seen so much plastic. Including the very next cake had plastic all over it.
Technically, it's edible. Whether it's digestible and okay and the paint's not going to poison you,
we didn't get to see
a completely different thing.
So I think
I'm
Matt
sure
needs
a lot
to
of those
frame.
little miniatures are actually lead or metal.
So I'm sure then that Matt could have reframed it. It should be digestible.
See, I loved where everyone's thing went for. But fuck Hobby Co. got a good ride. Like, everyone's going in buying miniatures.
I was looking at the sponsors at the end there, and I didn't see Hobby Co.
But seriously, like, it was either them or Cockington Green.
Reach out. I mean, no one's visiting. It's COVID. So, I like the fact that Nerman opened this with Guinness.
Yep.
And just got stronger.
And whiskey.
Yeah, so later on with Nerman, obviously, we got some whiskey to go along with his as well.
He really did take that whole booze and a bake, get the judges drunk.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
So Nerman's cake was it was very boozy.
But I did like he was doing some sponge cake in a cup.
There was the sponge cake in the cup. It was a chocolate stout sponge with a whiskey cream.
A little Lego man.
A little Lego man and sponge greens. Which was interesting. Then we get to the Have You Seen This Show number 2. We cut to Blessing.
Yes.
Who's dicing chilies. And the audience at home has one go, but Maggie's there.
Look, I feel that Blessing's using some of her, disability support worker training. I think she's like, look, we can challenge your boundaries in a safe way. We have medics here.
Tell me, in disability services,
Yeah.
does the person often send you home from your job? Because Maggie has the ability to send her home.
Yes, which is why you've got to make it challenging, but not unachievable.
I'm going to cut ahead to the judging of that one quite simply, where Matt's like, oh, not as much of a kick as I thought there'd be. At which point Maggie squealed. And then Matt went, second thoughts, there's an afterburn there. So the whole "it's not that hot" thing was a lie. It was incredibly hot, it turns out. Because Matt Moran reacted, and Matt Moran doesn't
react to chili. All right.
So...
obviously, Blessing's level of chili versus and what she considers mild is very different to what.
Well, we know what Maggie considers mild, and it's not chili.
It's like being in the presence of a chili.
See, I love
Mel. Yeah, $100 to eat this, Maggie.
Maggie's like, no, I don't need money that much. I run an empire. I've got stately. I've got the Verjuice fields. We're fine. So Ashley. Now, Ashley's the idea was really cool. The Enchanted Fairy book.
Oh, and I loved it. And look, her whole thing saying that, she's been reading to her daughter since she was born. My sister, like my mum always read to us.
Yep.
And my sister reads to my niece and nephew. And that's one of my favourite things.
So
the books. And, it's just so sweet.
There's mousse in the almond nougatine. There was a bit of a honey in the cake as well.
Yeah. I think it was a honey mousse.
Yeah, it was. It looked amazing. Then we get to Aaron.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, as you said before,
yep,
Aaron plays rugby.
Does he?
Yeah.
I didn't know
We'll
that.
never have known.
No.
Now,
I thought he was just quirky.
Now, he's the quirky rugby player. Mud cake with salted caramel and then the grass over the top. Now...
I thought that's who played for the convicts.
At this point in time...
Yeah.
Aaron decided to go into comedy business for himself.
Oh...
It's a bit dense, but then again, it's a bit like a rugby player. Oh!
He did his own.
He did his own.
Love it.
Followed by, it's going to be a bit difficult. All I can do is try. Ching. Look, Aaron, I'll give you the first one. Stop there.
No, keep going.
Kristie's like,
keep
more.
Pushing it. More, Aaron, more puns.
Now...
more rugby-based puns, by the way.
Let's talk about the Nav Jelly volcano, shall we? So obviously the jelly was not edible. But we've got a conversation to have. Now, it's not even about the mayonnaise and rose water in the cream. That's not even... in the cake and the cream. That's not even a thing. White chocolate, fine. The chocolate was great.
It's cool.
The scene!
Okay, so he went on his honeymoon, and they canoed around some islands. Or they were on a boat around some islands. There wasn't a volcano to be seen.
But there might have been.
So, I'm kind of liking that he's gone, well, this is from my world, and I want to make it a showstopper. What's better than an island? A volcano.
Look, the miniature world inside your head is a miniature world.
I don't why base it in reality? Like, you could have just had a whole volcano theme going on. You could have made Volcano Man. You could have done some Fire Saga action. I'm just saying.
If he played...
some Silver Leaf.
Look, what I'm saying is...
Volcano Man.
What I'm saying is, if you played a lot of Skyrim, then technically you could have made a cake out of Skyrim, and that's your miniature world.
Oh my god, you could put fucking Parthenax on top. Like, fuck little plastic Lego
people. No,
people.
Because they're going to cut Parthenax, and I don't kill Parthenax ever.
Which is why you'd use a plastic Parthenax.
No.
Ha!
Doesn't work.
Ha!
Doesn't work.
Ha!
Anyway, so Nav put basically a scene that he imagined on his honeymoon that didn't happen because there wasn't a volcano, there were just islands.
And it wasn't his honeymoon. It was actually last Sunday when he
and he was in Dapto.
He was in Dapto. It wasn't his wife. He was actually just walking the dog.
And it wasn't rivers and islands. It was just a stretch of dirt. Yeah. But the canoe was there.
Yeah.
I love Maggie's only concern with the judging was that canoe looks like it's in a dangerous spot. This is the woman, remember, who quite happily wanted to watch the villagers get destroyed on a previous volcano cake in a previous series.
Look, I just don't think there was enough danger to the people to really titillate Mags.
Speaking of titillate, perfect segue, because we're up to Ella. We are up to Ella, and I'm just going to say it straight out. This is possibly my favourite cake in existence.
Look,
I love
don't you love
this.
boobs, though?
You just really love them. The Taboobs cake.
That was bloody brilliant. It was
so... First of all, the concept was brilliant. I'm making boobs.
And okay, so there's no double entendre. It is straight out tits. And it is a beautiful point, and I loved how she just leant into it gently, into Matt's discomfort. She's like, breastfeeding is taboo.
That's why I'm calling it taboobs.
I'm going to put my little child, crawling up to the nipple. There's going to be breast milk. It's going to be...
And more importantly for us as an audience,
yeah,
this is the start
yep,
of what was going to be an amazing run. Just an incredible run.
yep.
Possibly the best ever. So she was the flour bra that she made was using like a biscuit base. Mm-hmm. Then she had the floral cake as well with the white chocolate and passion fruit ganache for breast milk inside the cake. That became important when they cut it open and Maggie Beer's reaction.
But before we got to that, we had Mel and Claire come up to check in on her. Are we doing this now?
No, we'll do it in a minute. We'll save it.
Okay, we'll save it. We'll save it.
We'll cover those boobs up for the moment and we'll expose them later. So Jaywen.
Yes.
Strawberry mountain cake with a wattle seed and vanilla and marshmallow fondant. I didn't think he was making enough cakes.
No, I think, just the 4, 5 cakes he was making.
Him and Nerman both just like cake upon cake upon cake upon cake. Jaywen's solution was, I'm in trouble. I just need to make as many cakes as possible. The wattle seed and vanilla was an interesting flavour combo, which they ended up loving. And the marshmallow fondant on top of it. The mountain ended up looking really good.
I think it was very clever. And, because it was a mountain, it didn't have to be symmetrical. It didn't have to be perfect. Yeah. He just had to make it look like a mountain. Yep. And no giant penis. And
again, the little, like, the detail of, like, the board at the bottom of it with the climbers and the hikers.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Exactly. I loved it.
Then Lidia. Now...
Italian
I loved the idea of what she decorated it with. The idea of the nonna and the grandchildren making the pasta. I absolutely loved that.
Yep.
But it was just a butter cake.
It was.
With a chocolate swirl, but it was a butter cake.
And she had to ask what the Italian
So she had to ask Tom what colour the Italian flag was and
it
what
green,
honour,
white,
what
red,
order.
Or red, white,
and
green.
You've never seen anyone look at someone both caring and not giving a shit as much as Tom, who looked at her and is like, he cares about her as a person and wants to help, but at the same time he's like, I'm making my own cake.
Look, I love Tom because he's a non-profit CEO. I work for a non-profit. And there's a lot of expressions on Tom's face that I see on my own CEO face. And there has to be a lot of this that goes on. So I think it was beautifufully done. And it was more that I think Lidia had to bounce, like verbally process something off someone.
Oh, yeah. So we quickly cut to Nerman with the waterfall mountain.
I think as long as she didn't put like a snake and an eagle in the centre of it in yellow, she would have been fine.
100% fine. Not a problem there. So Nerman was, again, the waterfall mountain with the whiskey cream filling, a stout cake, and the edible moss. And again, looked really cool.
Yeah.
But as they said with the judging, it sort of came apart in the construction of it. Cut back to Ella for a moment. The thing is the total coverage of the boobs. Cut away from Ella. And, I loved this for production. They just had Ella there for a quick soundbite and then back to what we were doing.
Yep.
So Hayden was making his musical theatre cake, which is when you suddenly went, oh my God.
That's where I know you from.
Now, chocolate ganache and buttercream. Now, the interesting part about that cake was it was basically he made a mini opera cake.
He did, yes. And his miniature stuff on top was literally just a few pieces from Hobby Co.
And it was very, very, very miniature.
Like, come on, Hayden. You Sid represent. Pull your socks up.
Now, then we go to Blessing, who talks about her chili chocolate cake. And when they went, well, what's the story here? And she goes, well, the world is erupting. And I love the fact that we've got someone going, and like Matt Moran didn't shy away from it. Matt's like, no, you're a young person going, you know what? Planet's probably not in as good a shape as it needs to be. We need to do something about it.
Yep.
And she's like, better believe it.
Bloody love that.
So 4 layers, cream cheese and a Swiss meringue buttercream, and the chili in each layer. And my word, when they cut through the middle of it, couldn't you see the chili?
It was like Flea and fucking Anthony just bopping around in there because there was some red hot chili peppers going on.
Well played, well played. Now, Hoda tactically had put hers in the fridge when Matt turned up.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't say it's in the fridge setting. I need to go to the fridge. No, you can't open the fridge. You can't open the fridge.
Carrots. We know who's that for.
Yeah, white fondant, gold leaf countries, a coconut Madeira cake with a passion fruit filling.
Mm-hmm. And it's her travelling the world.
Yeah, she was like, I want to travel. Now,
poor Hoda.
We cut to...
I did like her doing some therapy.
Yes.
with with that.
We cut to Claire Hooper for the greatest time call in the history of Bakeoff.
Mm-hmm.
Bakers, there is no prize money.
It's like the biggest MasterChef troll. Because I'm sure while they were filming, that's what the fuck was on TV. And every friggin' time you turn around, they're either mentioning the prize money or that's what you're playing for and gesturing at
My
the shield.
food future with money.
Yes.
You know, I want to open a restaurant and be successful as a restaurateur. And I love the Bakers, there is no prize money call. I absolutely...
Just fucking
I
brilliant.
absolutely adore that, because at the end of the day, what are they there for? They're there for a cake plate and to meet some really cool other bakers and get some really cool ideas and have some fun. That's what they're there for.
Yep.
Um,
And I don't think it's tall poppy syndrome. Like we touched on this with Claire the other week when she wanted to know why we thought British had gone downhill
why Australian
and Canadian had kept it. And I think it's because when British first started, it was all done for the love of baking. It was we're there to see people who were just enjoying themselves to do it. Now, as the years progressed and it became a pop culture icon and opportunities opened up and there were some extremely talented people and skilled people that came through, like Nadia, for instance, you know, who went on to forge a career. The dynamic over there has shifted.
It has, because, like, again, you might get one or two that became sort of household names out of the back of it, but that was it.
Yeah.
Now, with British, everybody goes on there to
With
forge their career. They do. They treat Bakeoff in UK a lot like people treat MasterChef here.
Yeah, and we've noticed it. And, you know, there was the changes between going from the BBC to Channel 4 as well. And it's just, it's changed not to an unrecognisable sense, but there's...
Just enough.
It's just enough to go, okay, well, this isn't the balm it used to be for me.
Exactly.
And that's what Australian and Canadian do. Because, like, you know, the bakers are just fucking there to have some fun.
They're there to have some fun, and in Nav's case, set fire to his chucks.
You know, have some fun, burn down the
What
Bakeoff
would a series of Bake-Off be without somebody setting fire to something and nearly burning everything down?
Yeah.
It happens in every series.
What's the point?
Now, at this point, we cut back, of course. We cut back to the one and only Ella. My nipples aren't working right, but the bra's lopsided.
And Kate,
To which point Claire turns around and goes, yeah, but how's the cake? So we then cut to Carmel, who is going to surprise you, has made a giant carrot with rabbits. It's a bunny theme.
I love
Carmel.
She's not a crazy cat lady. She's the beautiful bunny lady. And I am here for it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That my God, if you wanted to theme your first week.
If you wanted to make an impression.
If you want people to remember who you are, then Carmel certainly made an impression.
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
That carrot, and I love later on when they get to the judging, and Matt's like, head's over here and the tail's over there. Oh no, that's two different bunnies. No, I thought it was just one long bunny. I thought it was Portal. Then we cut to Tom, who talks about coming from the Torres Strait and talks about obviously the water and the importance of water, and that's why he decided to do his mirror cake with sharks.
And the shark's eating sardines, and then Maggie's like, I wouldn't want to fight the sharks for the sardines. And he's like, no, the sharks are only going to eat the sardines. Like, they're not interested in you, Maggie.
So he's like, Maggie's like, no, you don't get the point. I want the sardines.
Yeah.
So his cake was a butter cake with dolce de leche in the middle as well. Cut to Ella. Breast milk is going in the boobs. Cut away from Ella. Now, at this point...
This is some of the most spectacular editing we've had.
And at this point, we cut to Lidia, who's very keen to help. Far more keen to help than actually baking her own stuff. She's walking around again going, I need to help other people. And we're like, okay, that's great. But, like, you've got so much time left.
I honestly feel that Ella didn't need help with her bra, but she's just gone, oh, lids, I'll give you something to do. Put these balls on the bra for me. Like,
and then we come back to Ella again, who went, we have nipples. They're not even, but they're nipples.
Look, I think that just makes them more... like realistic.
Exactly.
You know? Everyone knows your boobs aren't symmetrical.
No, they're not.
You know, your nips are your nips. They all come in all shapes and sizes. Hers were very perky. It was a bit chilly. I think it's because the bra wasn't completely
Bra
covering
wasn't really
them.
covering them, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get to the judging. So Aaron, so they said that he did very well with the story. At which point Mel started explaining rugby to Maggie, going, "I'm a lesbian. I know a lot about sport." They said the texture was good. Matt did say that the first flavour was olive oil that he got, but he did say that it was also very delicious.
I think that's why I'm bisexual. I couldn't be a full lesbian. Sport really confuses me. We were watching some NFL today, in which your team was it NFL? I don't know. It was the football.
Yeah, we were watching NFL the other day, and yeah,
and there was some like ads for some car race, and I thought they were getting very excited about the clash, and I'm like, why are they excited about a band playing?
I'm like, no, it's NASCAR.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I knew that.
Now, caramels, they said, was quite a spicy carrot cake, but it was very well balanced. It was good spice, not bad spice.
Yeah.
Nerman.
It was more of a Mel rather than a Posh.
Yes. So Nerman, they said the decoration was extraordinary. It was very rich just by looking at it. Flavour was in the whiskey, and they said you really could tell the flavour in the whiskey, but it did come apart a bit. Ashley's, they said, looked good with a great story.
Because the cake was so fucking drunk. It was
well, Nerman's cake was smashed.
And so was Nerman at one point, just on the floor.
The cake was fantastic for Ashley. They said the honey flavour in particular really cut through beautifully.
Oh, yeah. And it looked beautiful too. Like, how delicate, like the paper, like the rice paper wing, like pages, and...
Oh, look great.
It's a little bit of goldy. Oh, I loved it.
Hoda, they said that the cake was dense, but was very, very good flavour, and the buttercream was really nice as well.
Yeah.
Hayden, they loved the ambition, but it was very small, but they did say the flavour was quite nice.
Yeah.
Now, Blessing, they said it was incredibly moist. But that was when we had the conversation about chili, where Matt was trying to say it's just a hint, and Maggie started squealing. And Matt's like,
because the world's erupting, there's
Exactly.
a volcano coming through.
They said that Tom had a great mirror glaze. However, the mirror glaze wasn't really that good to eat. It was very sweet, but the cakes were quite good. Lydia. Now, they said the story was good, and the chocolate swirl came out, and you could tell that Maggie was sort of setting it up, because she's like, your chocolate swirl came out quite good, and you're like, oh, Maggie. They said it was rich, but it lacked moistness and was very overcooked. Jaywen, they said it was a great decoration, and the wattle seed had amazing flavour. Nav, the canoe was cute, if not a bit worrying. They had the argument over whether you should be able to eat the gel or not. Can you eat the gel? He's like, well, you can. It probably wouldn't. The cake was fudgy, but in a very good way, and the balance was good. And Ella. Now, Matt went bright red. And then she goes, you can take the bra off. At which point Mel's like, he's been waiting to hear that.
Look, I just think Matt hasn't been to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where there's an array of erotic cakes.
Exactly.
And all my Office fans are giggling at the moment.
Gladys knows them all.
Yes, and you can get all kinds of things, and it's.
When I say Gladys, Phyllis, duh.
Phyllis, yeah, and Phyllis likes to know that she can be represented in cake form.
Exactly. Maggie said that she was delighted with the cut of the cake, and they just both said that they thought amazing.
And wasn't it brilliant when the milk spilled out? Like, that was beautiful.
Maggie's reaction when they cut it and the milk spilled out, she was. It was again. Forget Maggie Beer. We were back to little Margaret Ackerman, and just like the delight and the joy.
Look, you could have gone a way to make it spurt out the top, but why do that when just a simple milk
so
spill?
Much better.
Just, yeah.
And I love when they went to the judging and they went, so, Matt, I forgot one word. Boobs.
Boobs, yeah.
It was legitimately one of the best cakes I think I've ever seen. It was quite, Star Baker was easy.
It was, okay, a cake like that, right, when you're going to do, for a better term, shock value, right?
Yeah.
This is a concept. It is, as she put it out, taboo. I'm going to put it out there. Yeah, you could just make boobs, right? But every single aspect of it was thought out and executed beautifully. So, yeah.
She did wonderfully well. Look, Star Baker was easy. It was Ella, and very well deserved. And as she said, I've set the bar quite high, and I don't quite know how I hit that again.
Next week, the clit cake.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Anatomically correct clit cake. I'd like it if Hayden is just going to jump in on that. Not the clit, but going, okay, well, if boobs won, well, next week.
You can...
Doing scrote.
Scrote.
It's two great big wrinkly balls.
Hello, new listeners. This is what we're like. Anyway,
because you could do the pubes out of Sugar work.
I got so close to the end. We got so close.
I'm just saying, and you can always have a creamy center that spills forth when you cut into it.
Much like boobs, they're not identical. Anyway, they're not.
No, they're not.
One does lower than the other. Anyway.
You'd open it up, and he'd have like the vas deferens going on. He'd have all the actual bits and pieces that are inside a testicle.
So look out for Scrotum Week coming to a week near you. Anyway,
Gonad Week. I
Gonad
think it'd just be open to all nads.
All nads.
Yeah.
All nads are equal. Anyway, freedom for all nads. Anyway, so
someone does the hair removal product.
So anyone who listens to podcasts knows that's a manscaping thing. Anyway, balls. Anyway, moving on. So Ella wins Star Baker, and a very well-deserved Star Baker. Well done, Ella. Unfortunately, look, I thought there are a couple of people that were possibly a little bit lucky. I thought Tom was kind of lucky.
Yeah.
But I think it was about, and they even said in terms of development and growth, I don't think that Lidia was going to go much further.
No, see, Tom showed technique and...
whereas Lydia's
he looks like he just had a bad week in the fucking
Whereas
tent.
Lydia's amazing and wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's going to be what Lydia's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's great, but in a competition where there's going to be evolution every week, you're probably not going to get to see much of it.
Do I want to be Lydia's grandchildren? Fuck yes.
Would everybody else in there be quite happy to have Lidia stay around as their sous chef?
Yeah, and their hype woman. Fuck yeah. Because she's going to tell you your suit is amazing. She's
and we
going
always
to go around
and
put
we
your
always
balls
say,
on the bra.
look, we always say that it's always the first one's always hardest because you don't really get a long time in there. I'd rather go home because I was spending all my time offering everyone else help.
Yep.
That's not a bad reason to go home.
No, absolutely not.
So look, and she's made an indelible impression. I think there's no doubt about that. So commiserations obviously there to Lidia, but congratulations to Ella for an amazing first round. Like realistically, as Matt said, I don't think we've seen a first week like what Ella put out.
No, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how everyone else progresses, and the series progresses. I think it's going to be interesting to see, we've seen Canadian do COVID, okay? I think it's going to be interesting to see how our series plays out because, we've not had one in a couple of years and we've had some challenges in that time. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, next week, we have Biscuit Week.
Hells yeah.
Can't wait. That'll be outstanding.
Get your tea ready for the Duncan.
So, anyway, this has been a fairly long one. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate it. As always, it is so good to be back.
It is, and I've really loved it. And, how can we say, how can we say it's going to be a good season? It started off with tits.
It started off with tits. Boobs. We started with boobs. Started as you mean to go on, and we started with boobs. Yep. So, until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
Ooh, tits akimbo!